Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and today we're going to be doing a picking the right command and control ship. And this is going to be a fairly complicated topic to discuss because there's not a ton of ships that are specifically labeled as command and control ships. And there are kind of a couple different meanings to that topic anyways. But that's never stopped me before, and I've had a lot of requests for this particular topic, so let's go ahead and just get right into it. A command and control, or CNC ship, is there to serve the purpose of really tracking targets and tracking your assets and assigning roles and responsibilities to those that are in your fleet. This is only really useful in a fleet because if you're the only ship, you're only controlling the battlefield with your own vessel. And I think there's some keys to finding the right CNC ship, and I think they're mainly focused on good sensors, a good setup inside the ship, and specific modules if they're available. For the most part, I feel pretty strongly that this role is best suited to multi-crew ships, as being the leader of a fleet and putting everyone into good situations really needs your undivided attention. And having to worry about flying your ship and staying safe and not getting your whole fleet killed, it's just a lot to take on, and it's a whole lot of risk associated with trying to do that. With that being said though, if you're a smaller fleet or you just don't have the money to get into a bigger ship, there's a few that I think could potentially fit the bill, but ultimately it really comes down to one. And the one that I would really suggest is going to be the Hornet Tracker. On top of its ability to fight and its proven durability, the Tracker comes with an advanced radar suite which makes tracking targets and your friendlies a lot easier experience. And the description even goes on to talk about how militia units are going to modify their trackers to serve this purpose. That to me suggests that there's upgrades or modules that are going to be available to help assign targets and assess threats. And I think that's actually the best and really the only option in the single seat category that's worth your real heavy consideration. Beyond that though, there's a few 2 to 3 person craft that I think can do this job well. And keep in mind that without being mentioned in descriptions or having specific upgrades being talked about, we're really theory crafting. But at the very least, these could fit the bill, even if it's more manual and relies on you verbalizing assignments instead of actually sending that information to their computers to prioritize targets. The first is going to be the Drake Herald, and with its onboard sensor suites for stealing and transmitting data, it probably has the bare minimum to get this job done. It's also going to be very fast, so it could potentially outrun threats while the non-pilot in the back is taking responsibility for assigning targets and assessing the battlefield. Another ship that's not even in concept at this point but has been mentioned is the Reliance Newsvan variant. And I know that's a bit of a stretch, but when I hear Newsvan, I hear transmitters and probably receivers, and if it has the power to do that sort of thing, it could be a decent two-man craft capable of controlling the battlefield. The Freelancer Dur and Cutlass Red are both ships that you may already have in your fleet for other purposes, but both come equipped with long-range sensors and advanced scanning suites, and for the same reasons that we talked about before, these could be good choices. But if we're talking 2 to 3 man craft, I think the one that really shines here is the Vanguard Sentinel. Like with the Tracker, the Sentinel also has a command and control description that's been listed for it, which means that it was really built with that purpose at least partially in mind. With the Sentinel, it's really more of an electronic warfare ship, but that equipment is also useful in roles like command and control. It's fast, it's powerful, and it has redundant systems, which all mean that it can stay in battle for a long time. And add to the fact that it has powerful data cores and a nice area in the middle module for a commander to sit and do his job, you've got a pretty good setup that I think could be your best option outside of the truly larger craft. My one concern about the Sentinel, though, is that the station is likely enclosed in the module in the middle of the ship, and if that's where you're sitting, you're restricted to your screens to assess the situation. That should be enough, but there's going to be a large contingent of commanders who really want the ability to see the battlefield and not have to really rely on the screens to do that. I still think it's the best smaller option, but bigger is probably better in regards to a command and control ship. But once we get into those larger ships, we have quite a few options available for this role. And it was actually a stretch goal that we hit a while back that a command and control module was going to be developed. And that had specifically mentioned 2 ships, being the Constellation and the Idris. The Constellation is going to be a good ship for this, and in this line, all of them, probably with the exception of the Taurus, should be a good fit, whether it has that module or not. You could absolutely do it with the Taurus, but you're losing out on a turret to protect yourself, and that's not an ideal situation. The Aquila comes with the additional sensors stock, which means it could be cheaper to upgrade into this option, even though it's sacrificing a turret for the sensors. The Andromeda is more combat capable, and if you're in a dangerous fight, the 2 turrets and massive missile count is going to make a difference. And the Phoenix gets a point in its favor based on the point defense system to help prevent missiles and inbound threats from making contact with your ship. They all have points in their favor, and while I think they all get a big boon from adding that module, the Aquila is probably my choice just stock right out of the box. On the flip side, I think the Caterpillar has some promise in the realm as well. Not so much based on its current loadout or its description, but more in line with the fact that it should have borderline legendary modularity. And there is bound to be options to equip, to ensure that you're able to really capably control your fleet. Like with the Sentinel though, if this has to take a module in the chain of modules, your commander's probably going to lose out on that eye side of the battlefield. Now if the bridge on the Caterpillar ends up being big and open and can support this operation effectively, it would be a better situation. And similar to the Constellations, the Flying Pimp Ship, otherwise known as the 890 Jump, is a space yacht. But in the description, we hear about how it's ready for combat and is ready to take on a leadership role in command and control. I think the ship should be similar to the Phoenix and that it's going to serve the role well, and it is sufficiently protected in the end. So where we really get into the best command and control situations is ships where you have a true bridge and a hologram. Think about the holotable that we have in our hangars right now. You get a 3D display of what you need to see. And if you can see in 3 dimensions, point, click, drag, drop, make assignments, all while standing there, that's where you find the most success, all while having the backdrop be the battlefield. Real bridges don't happen until you get into the larger ships, and the Idris was already mentioned as being a candidate for that CNC module. The Idris also carries ships in its hangar, so even if they aren't real assets that are being deployed on the battlefield, they're candidates that you can release or then just be scrambled to protect your ship. The Javelin Destroyer also has this type of bridge, and while it doesn't have that same hangar, it is lined and just covered with weapons to ensure that you stay safe while controlling the flow of the engagement. The perk to ships like the Idris and the Javelin is that it's an intimidating sight, and it might be enough just to scare people away, or maybe to a point where they're not coming up to harass you while you're trying to do your job. The design of the bridge, the purpose of the ships, and the equipment they bring make the Idris and the Javelin the 2 best options for command and control in my book, though they are probably going to be in-game or too expensive for a lot of people. And finally, one that I think has to at least be considered because I think it fits the bill really well is with the Carrick. The Carrick is a dedicated explorer, so you know that it has the equipment on board to do the job, but the bridge has a ton of visibility as well, and there's science and observation stations that seem to really indicate a good potential for commanding a fleet from that bridge. The ship is also an anvil ship that was initially built for the military, so while they have a larger dedicated CNC ships in the military, I think the Carrick makes a natural choice. I don't think it's going to be as good as the Idris or the Javelin, at least probably not, but it's also a lot cheaper and has a much lighter crew requirement. So there you have it. What do you think? What are the best command and control ships out there to date? Are you interested in maybe turning a Genesis Starliner into like an AWACS ship, or maybe going to try and use an Endeavor as a control ship? I'd love to know where you're going to place your vote on this topic, because there is a lot of theory crafting associated with it. So feel free to leave comments in the or questions in the comments. Otherwise, stick around for more content. I appreciate you all watching, and have a great day. Take care.